Hello. Yeah, Mohammed. Yeah, good evening. So how are you doing? Yeah, you're the first in class today. I'm sure in a couple of minutes the other students are gonna come in. Yeah, I had a problem myself logging in, and my system's a little bit. Yeah. But the video, I'm having a problem with my webcam, so probably you're not gonna be able to see me today. If Um, maybe I can switch to the next computer towards the end of the class, so you can be able to see me. But at the moment, I'm having a problem with my webcam, so we can make do with that anyway. So how is everything going? Okay. Are you able to get the material that I'm using? That's okay. I'm going to request. But did you get the material for the class today? Because I asked the um, coordinator to send the material to all students. I suppose she did. Okay, you didn't get it. Um, that's okay. We're going to go through the material here in this session. So I don't know what happened today. There was a class yesterday, wasn't it? So Mohammed, what's your location? Where are you at the moment? Where are you attending the class from? Because you're regular, and was wondering, is it in India? In Oman? Okay. So how is Muscat? Definitely Muscat, isn't it? Anyway, today's session we're still going to start. If you're the only one today, maybe there's some problem, but I don't know if the problem is contagious. because there are lots of students from India, from the UAE, and from students from Qatar. I don't know exactly what went wrong, and if it's the link, if the link didn't go through, if everyone didn't get the link, I don't know, because normally we always start with at least 10 students, but it's okay. Even if you're alone, we can still work through what I prepared for today. And then later on after the class, I'm going to try to check to find out what went wrong, because I suspect that the link didn't get through, and the other students don't have access to the class. And okay, we're gonna. I wanted us to look at professional business ethics anyway. And I sent a material. It's a case. It's kind of a discussion session on business ethics. I sent pre-material ready for everyone to go through. So based on that material, we could have a some kind of discussion on it. But I don't know why you didn't get the material. So I'll try to find out as well what went wrong. But this kind of things happen. Things never go so smoothly. Once in a while, you can have this kind of issues, but it's important we try to prevent it happening again. So if you look at the screen, we're talking about business ethics, and there is a statement on the screen that's very interesting to me. I find it very interesting. It says, it's a good idea to look at what you're encouraging employees to do. Now, Mohammed, I'm going to give you access to the video. Since you're alone, the mic and the video. Hope you don't mind, so we can talk. So is there any indication? Look at the top of your screen. You have to probably accept. Okay. That's good. I can see you. It's pretty dark anyway, but not bad. Let me see if I can also give access to Rahul. So we discuss together. Oh, I see. Mohammed without shirt. Okay, so I have to take off your cam. Sorry, I didn't see that. And then it means we have to work without access. Let's just talk about. Now, first of all, what do you know about business ethics? Let's just share that together. Business ethics. If you want to speak up, I can give you access to the speaker, but you can also write as well. So you can type in what you think about business ethics. So what do you know? What do you understand about business ethics? Rahul, can you hear me? Anyway, but I hope everyone can see my screen. So now, it's a good idea to look at what you're encouraging employees to do. So that is the opening statement to the session today. Why is it a good idea to look at what you're encouraging employees to do? Is because a lot of unethical practices stem from the fact that managers and administrators fail to look at what they're encouraging employees to do. But the first question is, what is business ethics? And I try to get a definition from Investopedia. It says, it's the study of proper business policies and practices regarding potentially controversial issues such as corrupt corporate governance, insider trading, bribery, discrimination, corporate social responsibility and fiduciary responsibility. Business ethics are often guided by law, while other times provide a basic framework that businesses may choose to follow in order to gain public acceptance. Now, I'd like us to take a deeper look at this. There are lots of words and expressions here that we need to take a second look at it. And we're going to go back to it towards the end of the class. But I wanted us to be more practical in this session. So let's look at 5 barriers to ethical organization. So what are the causes of unethical behavior in organizations? So why is there a lot of unethical issues happening with organizations? Can you give me ideas of what you think about it? I know most of you work, and some of you are managers, and you've got a lot of experience. So what do you think are some of the barriers, some of the causes of unethical behavior in organizations? Hello? I'm giving access to just the microphone so we can speak up.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Mohammed, what do you have an idea? What do you think are some of the reasons why there are unethical practices in organizations?
There are many ethics of an organization. We can improve their organization, their good behavior, good language, mean to say good speaking word, good timing, good relation, and age majority are also compulsory in this. Like this, these are things of ethics due to which we can improve their organization and firm like this.
Okay. What about you, Rahul? Do you have an idea why is it that there are unethical practices in organization? What are some of the causes of this kind of behavior?
First of all, if we have an ambition to become a good ethical person, so we compulsory that we did MBA. So because in MBA we can learn a lot of ethics of an organization. So we can handle like this problem easily.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point you're raising. That if you have an MBA and during an MBA course you learn ethics, so you can be a better manager and manage with proper ethics. That's very true. But now let's look at some of the reason, some of the barriers to ethical organization. In other words, what are the well, there might be other reasons anyway, but we're going to talk about 5 barriers. That is 5 things that are stopping organizations from being ethical, from being very good in terms of ethics. So what 5 causes? There might be many more. What?
The ethicals are occur in firm at the time of distress, at the time of difficulties, at the time of hurdles, at the time of quarrels, when quarrels, hurdle, difficulties, inexperience, injustice, these things are occurring in a firm, then barriers of ethicals are due to which we can improve their firm like this.
Okay. Let's look at the screen and see what I had. I said even the best intended executives are often unaware of their own or their employees' unethical behavior. Sometimes, Mr. Mohammed and Rahul, you might not have any intention to be unethical. Is that correct? You want to be good managers. You want to lead people correctly in the right way. But intentionally or unintentionally, maybe you're not even aware of what you're doing, but the way you're exercising your duties and responsibilities, you're making others, you're encouraging others to be very unethical. So let's look at some of these barriers so we don't become victims. We don't encourage it even unconsciously without knowing. So some executives, some managers, they're conscious of what they're doing. They know that what they're doing is wrong, but they still do it. But there are other managers and executives, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know that what they're doing is encouraging unethical behavior. So let's look at some of these barriers that can stand, in the way to an ethical organization, to make an organization, be very ethical. So the first is ill-conceived goals. Ill-conceived goals. Do you have an idea what it means, ill-conceived goals? Anybody with an idea? Okay, was that Rahul or Mohammed? Is that Rahul speaking or is Mohammed? Okay, Mohammed. Okay, so Mohammed, you think ill-conceived goal is? Can you say that again? What about you? Maybe this is just a little interruption there. What about you, Rahul? What do you think about ill-conceived goals? I don't know. Probably we're having some delays, and I'm just going to take the lead. So let me take you off the microphone so I can explain all of these points. So we have 5 barriers to ethical organization, and the objective of this class is that any of us who are managers or those of us who are going to become managers in the future, we have to look at the different traps, the different pitfalls that can lead to an unethical organization. And the first is ill-conceived goals. Now, I'm going to explain all of this a little bit, but the material that I asked the coordinator to send to all students, these different points are explained in depth. So the first is ill-conceived goal is your intention. Your original intention is not good. You get it? your intention is not good, and your objective is not good. You really intend to be unethical. You know that what you're doing is wrong, and that you plan to do it. You're ready to do it anyway. The next is motivated blindness. Because you're going to benefit something, you turn to behave as if you're blind to what is wrong. You work for a company because you're going to gain something maybe on a project. You close your eyes to maybe the flaws or the problems that can make the project harmful or the product harmful, because you know if the project doesn't go through, you don't get paid, for example. So you turn to be motivated to keep your eyes closed because of what you're going to get. And then the next point is indirect blindness. That is, for example, some companies outsource certain products and projects, and when you outsource it, sometimes you know that the company or the organization that is being outsourced is not very ethical. What they're doing is not very good. But again, you don't want to do it yourself. That is why you're asking a different organization to do it. And if you look at the material that I sent to you, there are lots of examples about a pharmaceutical company and how they want to increase the price, but because they think they cannot do that directly, they increase it through a different organization, through a different company. So that is indirect blindness. You try to cover up what you're doing by pushing it to someone else to do it, and then you behave as if you're not the one doing it, but you're fully aware of what is happening. The fourth is the slippery slope. What does a slippery slope mean? This means something is going to start little, and then it keeps increasing gradually, and stuff like that. So how does it fit? For example, there is a wonderful example in the text which I sent to you. I'm sure you can drop an email to the coordinator to forward the notes to you. If, for example, if you take a frog or a toad, a frog, and you drop the frog in hot water, the frog is going to jump out because the water is hot. But if you put the frog in cold water, well, maybe lukewarm, and you increase the temperature of the water gradually, the frog is not going to notice the increase, and it's going to stay there and cooks to death. So the slippery slope is that you close your eyes to very little problems or little flaws, and then gradually, because you're doing that, you end up closing your eyes to so many things. And it's like when you're auditing. If you're auditing maybe a department, and there is a little problem, maybe few rupees or 100 rupees or few dirham or whatever currency you're using, you say, anyway, this is little. You just overlook it. And if you keep overlooking these little things keep piling up, and at the end of the day, it becomes much. So that is a fourth barrier to ethical organizations. What makes an organization very unethical? That's okay, Rashid. And the last one is overhauling outcome. Now, overvaluing outcome. Now, many managers and many organizations, they don't care about how you get the job done. All they care about is let the job be done. So the value outcome, even if you're going to do a lot of illegal things, a lot of things that are not very good to get the desired outcome, the managers and some organizations, they value the outcome. They don't value the means. How did you arrive at this particular outcome? How did you help the company to have more income? How did you make the organization be more profitable? They don't care about the how. They just want to see the figures. Once the figures are there, they're comfortable. So these are some of the things that lead to very unethical organizations and unethical practices. Now, let's take a closer look at this point. I try to explain. You see, companies have poured time and money into ethical training and compliance programs. So many companies, they train their staff, to be ethical and on compliance programs. But unethical behavior in businesses is nevertheless widespread. Everywhere you go, you will definitely see some shred of unethical practice. And even an iota of unethical practice is very common. There are very few organizations around the world which are very, very ethical and can be proud of it. Now, that's because the cognitive biases and organizational system blind managers to unethical behavior, whether their own or that of others. Now, we've looked at the different forms, the different things that can lead to unethical practices. And there are 5 of them which we're going to consider in this particular session. I'm going to go back to it again so those who are joining in now can follow up. Now, though companies spend a lot of time and money and training, all these serve to derail even the best, the best intentioned managers. For example, Rahul and Rashid and Prabha and Mohammed, I'm sure you want to be ethical. Definitely. You want to be ethical managers. If any of you is a manager, you intend to be a good manager, isn't it? But the system pushes some people to become unethical. Now, what are some of these things? For example, goals that reward unethical behavior. You work for an organization, for example, and you have a colleague. You're trying to be honest. Your colleague is not honest at all, but your colleague at the end of the day brings in the cash, closes the sale. What the company do is the company is going to reward your colleague. They're going to give him a medal. They're going to give him compensation. They're going to give him motivation or incentives or whatever. Now, what is happening? The goal of the organization is rewarding unethical behavior. Some of it without even knowing that is what they're doing. So you have to check. If somebody is top performer, don't just look at the figures. Don't just look at the finance. Look at how the person got the figures. That is important for you to be able to identify unethical behavior. The next is conflicts of interests that motivate people to ignore bad behavior when they have something to lose by recognizing it. Now, for example, you're a manager, you're a marketing manager or something, and your branch or you're a branch manager, and you have a target. And you know that if the target is met, the company is you might have a promotion, for example. Now, what is this going to do to happen? How does this become negative in some sense? You have a target for your branch. Maybe it's in Delhi or it's in Dubai or it's in Muscat. You have a target, a sales target for that branch. Now, if you attain this target, the general or the headquarters can promote you. You can go to maybe a different position. I don't know. Now, because you have something to lose if this target is not met, the way you start behaving towards that particular branch will change if you're not careful. Now, what's going to happen is you turn to close your eyes on what the salespeople are doing, whether they are lying, whether they are doing things that are not correct, but you only concentrate on achieving the target. Because if you want to watch out and point out what they're doing which is wrong, it's going to affect the target. And because you know if the target is affected, it's not achieved, you will not be promoted. What do? You turn to ignore bad behavior because you know you have something to gain. That is one of the reasons why people become very unethical in their management. The next is a tendency to overlook dirty work that's been outsourced to others. Now, I'm just trying to add more flavor to what we've already talked about. Now, you know that for example, you work for a company that produces battery, or you work for a company that produces some material that is toxic. Now, what you do to dispose of the toxic material, you know that if you dump it yourself as a company, people are going to criticize you, and activists, they're going to go around the place talking about you. What do? You outsource the cleanup to a different company. And you know very well that the company is still going to dump it poorly. Because you don't want to do it. You don't want to be looked as the bad guys. You outsource it to a different company, and then you close your eyes to whatever they're doing. That is still unethical practice. So you overlook dirty work that has been outsourced to other companies. The next point is an inability to notice when behavior deteriorates gradually. Now, this is the slippery slope. When people do things little, you turn to ignore it. But again, little by little, it becomes big. It becomes great. So you turn to ignore this little bad behavior. And the last is a tendency to overlook unethical decisions when the outcome is good. Now, again, it still goes to explain when you overemphasize on outcome and not the means. So if you're a manager, you have to look at all these 5 points to make sure that they guide you as you work through your career as a manager, so you can have a more ethical organization, and yourself, you be a more ethical manager and employee. Is there any question at this point? The points, do they make sense to you? Okay, let's look at Prabha, did you get a copy of the notes today? I asked the coordinator to send a copy to everyone yesterday. That was yesterday. Okay, that's good. And what about you, Rashid? Did you get a copy of it? Probably there were some technical issues with Rashid. Anyway, let's move on. Now let's look at this chat. Okay, that's good. These were the different causes of unethical behavior. We've looked at them. The first one is ill-conceived goals. So we set goals and incentives to promote a desired behavior, but they encourage a negative one. Now, for example, if you say your goal is to reward, I don't know, maybe innovative ideas, or is to reward the number of sales. Now, what happens is you turn to ignore that particular goal, promotes negative things which most organizations and managers fail to address. So what is the example? If you read the text I gave you, I asked the coordinator to send to you, it says the pressure to maximize billable hours in accounting, consulting, and law firms leads to unconscious petting. Now, you cannot understand this until you read the notes. And what are the remedies? How can we solve this problem? Good. That is it. Probably you got it. You read it from the case. Now, what are the remedies? You have to brainstorm unintended consequences when devising goals and incentives. So as a manager, you don't just talk about a plan. When you present a plan, you have to look at the negatives of the plan. You look at, if you have a goal, you look at the negatives of that goal. And you consider alternative goals that may be more important to reward. So you encourage people to work more ethically. Employees are, some of them, they're not going to tell you, but they're going to do whatever it takes to get the job done. Yeah, that's good. The Bill Clinton's decision, the cancer medicine, good. Sales, which was outsourced, and then the price was increased, and that's very good, Prabha. You read it. That's very good. Now, the next kind cause of unethical behavior is motivated blindness. So what does it mean? We overlook the unethical behavior of others when it's in our interest to remain ignorant. So as long as you're going to benefit something out of a particular project or out of somebody's work, we pretend to be ignorant, or we pretend not to look at what is happening, because if we point it out, the results might not be good, and then we don't get rewarded. So that is a motivated blindness. And what is the remedy? Again, you should be careful. You can take down notes, because we're looking at the problem and we're looking at the solution as well. Now, you have to root out conflicts of interests. Simply being aware of them doesn't necessarily reduce their negative effects on decision making. So we have to completely root out conflicts of interest. You put people in positions without any negative or secondary interest. They are just open and objective. Now, the third type of cause of unethical behavior is indirect blindness. So we hold others less accountable for unethical behavior when it's carried out through third parties. Now, that is again in the case the drug company deflects attention from a price increase by selling rights to another company. Now, the company would have, the question is, why did the company have to sell the right to another company if they could do it themselves? Again, it's because they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be held responsible, beg your pardon, for that increase. So that is why they sold the right to another company to do it. So it is indirect blindness. They're pretending to be blind on it, but they're actually doing it. So we have to know that this also happens, and it's very common. Now, what is the remedy? What is the solution to this kind of problem? Well, as a proposed solution, it's not exhaustive anyway, but it's a proposed solution. When handling for outsourcing work, ask whether the assessment might invite unethical behavior and take ownership of the implication. So the company, if you work for a company that is going to outsource a particular project or work to another company, you have to be ready to take responsibility of what that company is doing for you. If you look at most agriculture, food companies, they outsource their raw material from different companies in developing countries, and whatever these companies are doing, using people, very in an inhumane way, making people work like slaves, they tend to close their eyes on it. and pretend as if it's not done by them, but it's done by that company. And we can also see this in garment industry. I have a couple of examples from Bangladesh, and there are lots of international companies. They get their garments tailored in some developing countries, and they know what these people are doing. They know how the workers work, what kind of conditions they are. If they claim that they do not know, then they are just trying to be, what they're doing is indirect blindness, because you have to take responsibility. You don't claim that it's done by someone else, so we're not responsible for what the person is doing. No, that is wrong. That is still unethical behavior on the part of the company. And this kind of unethical behavior is called indirect blindness. Now, the next is the slippery slope. Again, this is very interesting. I love this a lot. It says we are less able to see others' unethical behavior when it develops gradually. You know, things always develop gradually, and the example they used in the text is auditors may be more likely to accept a client's firm's questionable financial statements if infractions have occurred over time. Now, little things you ignore, and then those little things pile up, and at the end of the day, it becomes something big. So how do we clean up or avoid or try to prevent this kind of unethical behavior as a result of the slippery slope? We have to be alert for every trivial means very little, for every trivial unethical infraction, and address them immediately. It's like at home. When your child does something, you say, anyway, you're a child, that's okay. You don't tell the child that, hey, this thing you did is not right. You just say, anyway, it's just one thing. Now, it starts multiplying gradually, and it gets to a point where it becomes difficult to address. So that is a slippery slope. And what is the remedy? We have to address every trivial, ethical, unethical practice immediately, and then we have to investigate whether a change in behavior has occurred. And when people change, we have to be very vigilant as managers, not only at home, not only in the office anywhere, I beg your pardon, even at home. There are certain changes that happen over time. They happen gradually, and then we ignore them. And then after a long time, it becomes ingrained. It becomes part of the person, and it becomes a bit difficult to deal with. Now, the next unethical practice cause is overvaluing outcome. Now, we overvalue outcome. How do we overvalue outcome? We give a pass to unethical behavior if the outcome is good. So we don't care how the outcome was achieved. All we're concerned with is that the outcome is good. That leads to a lot of unethical practice. And like in the notes you received, the example, the best example is a researcher whose fraudulent clinical trial saves life is considered more ethical than one whose fraudulent trial leads to death. So if a doctor, for example, does something unethical, does something wrong, or maybe tries something, experiments on a patient illegally, if the outcome is positive, many people hail the doctor as, you're a wonderful doctor. But if a doctor does the same trial, the same experimentation on a patient, and the patient dies, then you're going to see it on all the papers. That is what is happening. Again, the outcome is not supposed to be the only thing that is important, but how we got to the outcome is also important. So what is the remedy to this kind of problem? We have to examine both good and bad decisions for their ethical implication. reward solid decision processes, not just good outcome. Now, if for example you're a manager and you're trying to do something, your intention is good, the procedure is good, it's ethical, but the result, the outcome turns out not to be good, most companies say you're not good. But if you're a manager or you're an executive and what you're doing is wrong, you use people like slaves, you do things that are illegal, and then the company at the end of the day becomes more profitable, everybody says you're a good manager. Well, some people say you're a good manager. So again, this is overvaluing outcome and not looking at what's happening. Now, we talked about human trafficking, and we talked about human exploitation, and this also falls under overvaluing outcome. There are so many countries, we're not here to cite names. You look them very highly developed, with wonderful structures, and it's really great. But again, how did these countries arrive at this point? How did they raise all these structures, the architectural work? How did they accomplish all of these things? Again, many people are going to value the outcome, and they fail to look at how that outcome was arrived at. So again, that is a cause of unethical behavior. And you know very well, so many countries were part of this, and even some people, they are very rich today. How they made their money. People don't want to look at it, but once the money is there, people make a lot of positive remarks. Okay, let me see. Prabha is saying something. Prabha says in India, same thing happened with Satyam Software. Is this software company? 20 years old company made irregularities in his shares, made the company CEO own profit, came out with, when auditing, CEO in jail now. Okay, software. Well, that's very true. It's very common in so many places. And okay, Rahul says it's Satyam Consultancy. Okay, that's okay. So these things happen. Now we've looked at the 5 major causes of unethical practice. The 5 major causes of unethical practices. Now this is very important. I don't know if these 5 points are new to you. If this is new information you're getting, I don't really know. But as managers or people who are going to become managers tomorrow, I think we have to watch out for these 5 points to make sure that we don't repeat the same things. Let's look at some exercise. I hope the lecture is clear. Okay. Let's look at an exercise. There are a couple of questions which I brought forward. Now, you look around you at home, where you work, at school, etc. Are there any unethical behaviors? If yes, what are the causes? Now, we've looked at 5 causes of unethical behaviors. When you look around you, where you work, at home, at school, do you notice any unethical behaviors? Just take a moment to do that. And then, what are the causes? Is it ill-conceived goals? Is it motivated blindness? Is it indirect blindness? Is it a slippery slope? Is it overvaluing outcome? So which of these do you think is the cause? Probably you talked about power and position. So what is it? Which category? Where does it fit? Where does it fall? Okay, these things, yeah, power and position, these things are going to make you to do whatever you want. So that falls under valuing, overvaluing outcome. You're more interested in power, you're more interested in position. So you're ready to do whatever it takes to get to a position of power and authority, probably. And how you got there, you don't care about it because people value people who are powerful. Okay. Everyone can take a look at it and try to see how it works around you. And the next is, what measures will you put in place to eliminate or reduce unethical behavior as a manager? Now, you as a manager, maybe if you're already a manager, I think tomorrow is going to be a different day. You're going to start immediately to try to observe and try to investigate the causes of unethical behavior in your company, if there are anyway. If you're not working at the moment, you can also check at home if there are some unethical things happening in your home, and try to see what are the causes of these unethical behavior and try to see where they fit. And then but first of all, if you do not define the problem, if you don't know the cause of the problem, you cannot solve the problem. And Proverbs says nowadays all are behind more growth, more sales, more profit. Yeah, that is it. So they are this again falls on in the fifth category, overvaluing outcome. The one growth is the outcome. If there is growth, they don't care about what happened before there is growth. More sales, they only care about more sales. They don't want to care about how the sales was done and what happened. And some people care about only the profit. How they got the profit is not very important. And by not caring about these things, we are promoting unethical behavior even without knowing it. Now, we are not saying that all managers who do these things, they are conscious. Some of them don't really know that this is why there is unethical behavior in their companies, because they promote one thing, and by promoting that thing, they're encouraging unethical behavior without knowing it. So that is the whole objective behind it. And some people know anyway, but they still go ahead to do it. So, and the next thing is, in our next class, we shall discuss a case related to ethical business ethics. I'm going to send the case to you probably tomorrow. You take a look at the case, and in the case, please, everyone should go through the case. We're going to, as you read through the case, identify the causes of the unethical behavior and come up with possible solutions. Now, I'm going to send the case to you. I've not yet decided which one. I'm trying to look for a very short case. That way it's going to be easy for you to go through. Because if we don't put this in practice immediately, we're going to forget. So you can go back to this video, watch the entire video, put down all those points, but you don't really need it because the material that I sent to you, all these things are there. I just did a bit of modification. I just arranged it in a different way, but the material, everything is found in the notes that I forwarded to the LMS, the coordinator for with IQ, LMS RC. So are there any interesting things you want us to talk about regarding ethics, business ethics, before we move on? Is the material new to you? Does it make any sense? Does it add any value? Do you think you leave this session better than you came in? Okay, like which points, Rahul? Okay, the slippery slope. Yeah, things that happen gradually. That's very okay. That's very true. And if you get the example of the frog in the notes, very interesting. Now, these are hard materials. These are top quality materials we're trying to provide to you because you get them from Harvard Business Review and and other sources. You can if you subscribe there, you can also buy them. Um, you can subscribe and buy material from there. You're going to have rich material. I really recommend some of their material. So you have good research material. You can be able to get up latest research on on business management and everything related to business and management. I don't know if everyone got the link, and I'll try to figure out exactly what happened. If it's the link issue, then I'll try to see that that's sorted out. If not, if it's some other reason, I don't know. I'll try to figure out myself what we can do about it. So okay, so that's the session for today on the issue of business ethics. And let me see what Rahul says. Okay, ethical hacker. How is that, Rahul? That sounds very interesting. Ethical hacker. So hacking, which is ethical. I think I need to take a look at it. I need to do a little bit of research on it and how that is and how that happens, how it works. Ethical hacker. I've learned something new today anyway. So anyway, that was it. I hope the class has added new knowledge to us, and okay, that is trying to sort. Okay,